And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we're talking about why the Chicago Bulls must value their first round pick. And so, before we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Matas Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so, in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So, make sure that you hit that like and you hit that subscribe and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so, with that being said, let's jump into it. We're talking about why the Chicago Bulls must value their first round pick. And let's start with foundation. I think that this is huge for the Chicago Bulls, and I think that they're really going to get the foundation for the team via the first round selection. Now, I think that the second round is absolutely going to be important. I think that free agency is absolutely going to be important for you, along with trades as well. But I think that the most important thing that you can do is take care of your first round selection. I think that that's how you get a real foundation for your team. And with that foundation, that's how the Chicago Bulls are going to get back to playing some real meaningful basketball again. And I'm not just talking about playing situations. I'm talking about getting out of the Eastern Conference and hopefully competing for an NBA championship again. And so with those foundational pieces, you're looking for a player that perhaps is going to turn into an MVP. Maybe this player turns into a franchise type of player, a player that really can just turn the course of your franchise, or you get a player that is just going to be a great, impactful piece that you can really build around. And so, for an example, a player that I think has been a very good piece for the Chicago Bulls hasn't turned into a franchise type of player or turned into an MVP candidate. But that's been Coby White. And so Coby White taken 7th overall for the Chicago Bulls. I think that you could say that this was a hit. And this is an example of why you want to take your first round pick very serious. This is why you value having first round picks, because you get a player like this that is really going to help you turn some things around as long as you continue building the correct way in the NBA draft. And so Coby White certainly can turn into an all-star player. I'm rooting for him there. I'm hoping that the Chicago Bulls do re-sign him. I know he's in a ton of, trade rumors and things like that, but Coby White has panned out, and he's an example of why you want to make sure that you're taking care of business in the first round. Also, too, a player like Matas Buzelis, look, I know he has not got to year 2, but with all the things that we saw in year 1, I think that we could say that the Chicago Bulls certainly hit on Matas Buzelis. I think that next season we're going to see more with him. There's nobody in his way. I do expect that Billy Donovan is going to really draw up some plays and concepts to utilize Matas Buzelis a lot more on the offensive end. So I could expect for the scoring to go up. And I think that with his strength, he is going to get better defensively. And so I think that we're going to see him become more of an impact player. I think between, Coby White, between Matas Buzelis, these are players that I do really think are going to be responsible for the Chicago Bulls turning things around and winning lots of games. And furthermore, an example in which the Chicago Bulls have a high pick and they did not even draft this player, Josh Giddey, right? Josh Giddey was taken 6th overall by OKC, and he's had a huge impact on the Chicago Bulls. So that right there shows you that, look, first round picks are huge for the success of a franchise. And so that's point number 1. It's your foundation to your team. And next, we're talking about AK and this front office now and why they can no longer punt on first round selections, meaning this, they can't go into trades now and just ship off first round assets. I think that draft capital is important to the Chicago Bulls if they're going to turn things around. So you cannot punt on that. And I think that now moving forward, if this team is going to turn things around, if you are going to use, Coby White as a trade chip, so to speak, or Ayo Dosunmu, just throwing that out there because there's been trade rumors around those players, then you need to find ways to get, first round draft capital back, because that is the way that you are going to turn this franchise around. And so AK can no longer punt on these first round picks. This is why, you have to value your first round selections. And so next, I think too, I want to throw out there that your second round selections are also important here, because when I think of Ayo Dosunmu, he was 38th overall. And this is a player that, look, man, he's come in, he's been terrific as a two-way player. I know he missed, with the shoulder injury, but I do anticipate that he's going to come back. I think that he was really starting to get things going before he got injured, with the way this team finished. And just now with what happened, down the stretch defensively and things like that, I think that he is going to be huge for this team. I'm hoping that he can even turn into maybe the sixth man of the year at some point. I'm just thinking long-term for Ayo Dosunmu. And so, with that being said, that just lets you know how important, again, draft capital is as far as building the foundation of your team. He's not an all-star. He's not the face of your franchise as far as, being a player like that. But still, he's a big enough impact that you can build with him, and you're going to need him, because if you do get a franchise type of player or an MVP candidate, he is the type of player that is going to fit in perfect with that player. And so does every first round player pan out? Absolutely not. I mean, you can look around the league, you can go back years and years and years, and you can see it doesn't always work. In fact, when we look at our very own example of Patrick Williams, who was taken 4th overall, it hasn't worked out. He hasn't stepped up to be, a franchise type of player. He hasn't stepped up to be an MVP type of candidate. He's been in and out of the rotation, and it just hasn't worked out. Now, can it turn around for him? Sure, but it just doesn't look likely right now. And so just saying, not every first round pick is going to work out, but this is why you need as many bites at the apple as possible to turn your franchise around. Because when you look at a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was drafted here by the Los Angeles Clippers, clearly traded over to the OKC Thunder in that Paul George trade, turns out to be an MVP for the league, MVP here for OKC, and it's been huge for them. All right. He's a franchise player, and that's what you're looking for in the first round. And it just reminds me of an article that I just read here on Bleacher Nation. And within that article, there is a chart in here, and it was written by, I guess, the author here of Spot Track. And it just shows you the importance of the first round selection and really staying in the lottery there, because, you see that within those first 14 picks, that's where the vast majority of your MVPs come from. And so that's why that is super important that you do not punt on your first round selections, because, we're talking about guys like Embiid, who's been an MVP. He was 3rd overall. A guy like Giannis, he was 15th overall. That's why we have, just a lot of, hopefully just we're cheering for Matas Buzelis, and hopefully that he can get there at some point in time. I think he's definitely going to be huge for our team. And then guys like James Harden, 3rd overall, Russell Westbrook, 4th overall, Stephen Curry, 7th overall, Kevin Durant, he was 2nd overall. Bottom line here, just letting you know that you have to take advantage of the lottery, and the lottery is actually 1 to 14. So 15th pick is right outside it, but still, this is why it's important to take advantage of that. And I just think that for the Chicago Bulls, if they're going to turn it around, you must not punt on your first round selections moving forward. It's super important. Even Josh Giddey, who's come over via trade, he was 6th with OKC. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about this. Do you think that the Chicago Bulls absolutely should be valuing their first overall selections moving forward here? Or are you with me in that sense? And then also too, do you think that, yes, the Chicago Bulls are at a point in time now where if they are making trades, they need to be getting draft selections back? Because even if you're still going out there and you're making a deal and you're getting a 2nd round pick, it can be huge for you. So like I said, a guy like Ayo Dosunmu has been huge for us. I think adding another player like Ayo would be huge for this franchise moving forward. But obviously, they have a chance to really turn some things around this year and hopefully next season as well, counting that we do not trade our first round pick. And so you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about valuing the first round pick moving forward for the Chicago Bulls. And so, as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.